Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the build of the MR Aerodesign's PC6 Pilatus Turbo Porter. We are getting very, very close to some cool things happening on this plane, even though everything that's happened already is cool. Let's roll that intro and get started. Alright guys, first thing you'll notice is the table is different. So took the magnetic table off, actually got this tabletop from my grandpa's house. He passed away last year and they were just cleaning out his house, and he actually offered this to me a couple years ago. I actually have a picture of this tabletop. It's actually a desktop, but it's solid maple, solid walnut, and finally got it here, found a use for it. So it's a great bench top. Have some cool things planned for this in the new workshop. Anyways, little tangent for you. But so we're focusing on the door of the canopy. We're focusing on the sliding door of the fuselage. We can't do the other doors until our fiberglass work is done. And then we'll be doing a bunch of the prep work and miscellaneous little stuff to get ready for the fiberglass portion. So there's going to be a lot of things covered in this video, but the primary focus is on the doors. But the goal at the end of this video is to have everything ready for fiberglass. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button down below. When you do hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell so you get notified when I release new videos. Thanks, guys. Let's dive in. All right, so in the last video, we got the fiberglass done on the separator between the cool and the hot sections, and we're ready to trim all this stuff out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim all the loose stuff away and get that done. And then once we get the fiberglass cut, we're going to start working on the door for the cowl. Alright guys, so first thing I'm going to work on here is actually trying to bend the pipe to see if we can get that to fit. So basically my goal here is to do as little bending as possible. So the actual interfering area is right up top here. And you can see that we're just not tucking down on that side. So basically if I bend this area here and the subsequent area on the part behind here that goes straight down, then hopefully that will solve the problem. So I'm going to pull this pipe out. It's a bit of a chore to take it out because we've got to take the turbine out, take the little clip off, but I want to get this solved and figure out if we can actually make that pipe work. Alright guys, well, the tube 3 hours later is finally bent to where we needed it to be. So previously this tube came straight out, bent 90 degrees, so it was actually sitting over here and we needed to get it way out of the way. So problem is when I bent it here and bent it kind of in this area, that screwed up the length and everything. So anyways, it's done. I'm happy it's done and happy with the final result. So one of the key things if you ever run across this, is your Festo fittings, or these Pisco fittings, can't have any sideways pressure on them. So when this tube goes in, it needs to go in perfectly straight. There needs to be no sideways pressure on the fitting, and then obviously same thing on that one. So before I actually put the clips on here to hold the tube onto the turbine, you can make sure that there's play in the tube and it's sitting nice and loose, just like the stock tube does. So anyways, that part is done, and I am very happy that is done. Alright, so for the cowl, guys, we're going to copy the way that it's done on the Snowbird or the Tudor here. So basically the pivot points are back about ½ an inch from the edge. Now the benefit of that is if you watch this, it pivots there, so this top section actually drops down, so there's zero interference that we have to worry about there. So we've got that set up there, so we've got 1 and 2 pivot points, and basically they're removable, which is nice. And then on the base side, we've got our actual spring lock here, And this side just has a fixed pin that goes behind the actual airframe. So that's how we're going to do the setup on the cowl. So to get that going with this bolted in place, what I did was install the door. I did this piece of tape first, and that was just to get everything lined up with the gap. Once I was happy with the gap all the way around the door, then I went and taped everything. And now from the back side, we can work on all of our pivot points. So this one here, we're actually going to run through the firewall, so we have as much as possible. But the way I do this is you get all these pieces cut, and you take a piece of wire that you're going to use, you run that all the way across, so everything's lined up, and it all works perfectly. So that's the first step, is getting this lined up, and then once that's glued, we can work on our fastening system as well. All right, so the door is all done. There's the latch system. And there's the inside. So pretty awesome. I really like doing it this way. With that rod going all the way through, everything lines up. There's an inside shot of our latch, and that goes into a piece of brass tubing that has a nice tight fit. And then that front piece there just tucks behind. So I've left that nice and long, and then if you need to make it shorter, you can just grind that end shorter. And everything works out good. So once this is all cured and dry, then what we do is we make L-shaped pins, and those clip into a servo connection holder. So same thing that we did on the Tudor there. So anyways, this is step number 1. So we let that all cure till tomorrow, and then our door will be operational. All right, guys. So while we're waiting for the cowl to cure and dry. Oh, hey, wait a minute. What's that? Oh, isn't that cool? Quick little plug for merch. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts? Getting some ideas. Let me know if you'd be interested in such a thing. So anyways, so we're going to be starting on the doors for the pilatus, the PC6, and quite a bit of thinking to do on this. Have to do some thinking before I really move on. But we did get, obviously, the doors made. We've purchased some of the channels and things like that we needed for it. And yeah, so hopefully we can get kind of a plan laid out here, and I'll show you guys what my my thoughts are. All right, guys, took the tape off this morning, and everything works great. Now I'm going to make a couple changes to the BVM latch. That's the hidden latch there. So the changes I'm going to make to that is, number 1, just putting a little point on the pin, and that's going to help it find the hole just a little bit easier. So that's one step to do. The second step is the actual actuating pin is just a pin, and makes it a little bit difficult in this type of scenario because you want to have a little bit of pull available. So all you do in that situation is, it's a 2mm bolt or thread, and I just switch that out with a 2mm Allen head bolt, and that just gives you something to grab onto, and works quite well. Simple little change. So I'm going to change those things, and this canopy is ready for the next step. All right, did a bunch of rearranging, guys, in the shop here. My big toolbox used to be over there, and I moved it over here. Took my old workbench, put it over there because I got more storage underneath. Took my toolbox that was over there, and now it's underneath my bench. I'm going to get another one eventually and put it there. Awesome changes. Okay, so didn't accomplish a lot today, but a couple final steps here for today. I'm just going to show you how we finish off the door hinge portion here. So we've got our pins created, and we take these little keepers that are for wires, and we get these inserted into the door area, and then all we do is glue the little keepers onto the door, and that gives us a fastening point and a removal point for our door hinges, which is the rod, the 440 rod. So then if we want to take this door out, all we do is pop the hinge out, slide out the pin, pop the pin out, slide out the pin, and the door comes off. So nice simple solution. I've had this on my Tudor now for however old the Tudor is, like going on 8 or 9 years now. And we also did that on the L39 build. So that's one of the last things we'll do tonight, is just glue these little keepers down. Other thing I did earlier today was make the pieces for the door. Now these were a real treat to try and figure out. I was going to do them on my table saw. The problem is, because the pieces are so small, just getting them lined up didn't work. So I actually ended up using my router with a guide built in, and I got Katie to hold them for me and just ran these along the router guide, and it worked out good. I did a whole bunch of extra pieces just in case, but basically the way this works is our slide guide fits in there. We've got about 1.5 millimeters of extra material on this side of the piece, and those will get glued onto the fuselage, something like that. And so from the side, all you'll see is the painted wood piece, but the door will have a nice hidden slide to go in, and it's going to work out good. So basically we're going to line the entire track with this, top and bottom, and also the sides as well too when this door closes all the way. One of the things to keep in mind here is the wing sits pretty low, so that's actually the pivot point for the flap. So when we run this across, we just need to keep this in mind. So I installed the wings and traced the underside of the wing just so I had that to guide me. So anyways, guys, that's it for tonight. As I mentioned, I'm just going to glue that on, and we'll see you tomorrow. So as a final step, guys, for the door, the keepers for the pins, those are all glued in place. The epoxy's still a little bit soft because it's only been sitting for about 8 hours. Anyways, so the top part of the door, we put a piece of G10 on the back side. So when this opens, it opens like this, and then when it closes, and that piece sits against the top part of the cowl. And then we glued our other guides in place. We've got one little one on the side, one little one on the other side, and then one all across the bottom. And those are all clamped in place and curing. So essentially right now, when this is all completed, what happens is the door opens. When it closes, it's got support on all sides, and there's no way for it to get pushed in, basically. So that's curing, guys, and next thing we're moving on to is the door, the sliding door. All right, guys, so I've been giving it some more thought, and it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to do the sliding door before I get the fuse and everything glassed. So I'm going to skip out on doing the sliding door until after, and that's going to be part of installing all the scale details. And the reason I say that is basically if you're putting all these pieces on the fuselage, first of all, glassing everything is going to be more difficult, and so that's one of the probably the primary reason why I wouldn't do it ahead of time. And yeah, so that's really it. And then basically getting all the metal channels and everything put in there, I just think it's not a good idea. So I am going to not do the sliding door until after the glassing process. So after the glassing, we are going to do all the scale details, so all the little details that are supplied in the kit or that you can buy separately, and the doors are going to be mounted everywhere and all that type of stuff. So that's going to be probably its own video based just on installing the scale details. So going to skip out on that, and basically what we're going to move into now is prepping all the surfaces for fiberglass. All right, guys, we're going to start filling now on this airframe. I've done a little bit on the other side, but I'll show you exactly what I do on this left-hand side of the airplane. So what we're using for this is polyester finishing putty. This is available at most automotive places, like even our automotive supply houses have this stuff. Now, keep in mind this comes in 2 parts. Okay, so this is the majority of it, and then there's the hardener here. Now remember, this little tube of hardener works for this entire thing, so just keep that in mind. you know, if you put a decent amount of the actual putty down, you only need a little tiny drop of the hardener to make it work. This stuff sands really well. That's the reason it's nice to use. And remember, you've only got a very limited amount of time to work with it. So once you start mixing it, you've got about, this particular stuff says 3 minutes. It goes real quick. So don't mix a ton of it. Have everything ready. Don't spend too much time trying to finish off the putty and make it look really good. That's what the sanding process is for. So last little tip here, we have 3 daughters and we go through like plastic Rubbermaid Tupperware type containers like crazy. So what happens is when my wife cleans out the cupboard where all those plastic things go, I ask her to keep them for me, all the different like mismatched containers, and then I end up using this type of thing a bunch of times, and I don't feel so bad when I just throw it out. So I'll mix this and clean it off a whole bunch of times, and then once it gets kind of grungy, I'll just toss it, right? It's super easy to work with this stuff. So anyways, I'll do a little time lapse here of what the process is. So let's do it. Alright guys, and that's basically the amount of time you got to work. Obviously it's that was all in fast forward, but once the material kicks off, so it starts to get crumbly and basically reacts, that's essentially when it's done. So it happens real quick. And if you've ever worked with Bondo, this is basically the same kind of stuff. It's just sands a little bit better. But you can see here it was starting to set up. So you will have to go back in these areas and do a second touch-up anyways. But I got as much done as I could in this area. And the primary thing that I wanted to focus on was the tail, which we got most of that done. Just the joint and having enough built up in the seam here. I do expect, though, once I sand this, I'm going to have to go back and adjust the transition a little bit, but that's basically what we're doing on the fuselage. So just continuing to fill and sand. All right guys, so a little trick for you here. I've got my LED light rigged up on my tripod or mic stand, and the benefit to that obviously is then you've got both hands free to basically see and play and do what you're supposed to be doing. So I've sanded both sides of the fuselage, and what I'm going to do now is I've left this a little bit shy in the joint here. You can see with the light shining, hopefully, and a low spot all the way across, if you can see it. So I'd like that joint to be a little bit nicer. It's going to, this part right here, I'm almost happy with, but I do want this to kind of go almost flat or at a nice angle, and then transition to the joint on the vertical stab. So anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some more, fill this area, and then jump over back to working on the fuselage. Alright guys, been doing a bunch of filling and sanding and filling and sanding and filling and sanding. One of the things I wanted to focus on was the beginning part of the wing joint here. When I put the wings on a few days ago, I wasn't overly happy with this section because I rounded it off when I put the sheeting on, and I should have kept it really sharp and then start to round off at this section. So basically what I've done is I've filled in this corner, and then what I'll do is I'll put the wing back on just temporarily and just kind of check this area out. And that's kind of what you're doing with everything when you're sanding this stuff. I mean, there was some gouges in here from my plane, so you're basically, you know, looking for all the stuff like this and trying to get rid of that, because you don't want those things to telegraph through your fiberglass cloth. So again, just going to get the wing put on here, check, make a little pencil mark where I need to come to. I think it's right there. And continue working on this area. So this is what I'm talking about here, guys. So I do have to sand the wing still. So basically I need to remember that I need to sand the sheeting in kind of this area. Okay, so I'll mark that out on the wing as a reminder. But this is what I was looking for. So I want the wing and the fuselage to be a nice flush, straight across joint. And then the actual angle of the fuselage starts right kind of in this area where I had it angled before. So now that I've got this figured out, I can start shaping this portion that I haven't touched with anything to do with sanding yet. So I'll pull the wing back off and shape this area. All right, guys, got a package today from my buddy Joe. I've plugged him a bunch on my channel. He does all of my 3D printing for me, and we got some really cool things in this package. I'll open it up quickly and we'll take a look at it. There's some unique things for our Sweewind turbines as well too that he designed, and all of this stuff will be listed on my website, listed down below, thelightersideofrc.com. Check out the shop. You can buy this stuff online, support local, and it's cool stuff. He does a really great job, so let's check this out. And if you guys see a turbine off to the side there, my Kingtech 160 that I pulled out of the Ultra Flash is for sale. So that's why it's kind of hanging off to the side there. All right. Okay guys, so some of the normal things that we're going to have listed on the website, you've seen these before. We've got a Festo valve holder. They come with a drill gauge, all the bolts and all that kind of stuff. These are awesome. Love those things. Great design. We've got 6mm line holders. So those will be in there, 10 per package. The little wire keepers, the little round ones that I've used on the builds, especially the diamond builds. Again, my favorite little wire keepers for singles. And we've got some UAT holders. Now this is a cool design that Joe came up with. This is the same one I ended up putting in the diamond. Holds all the different sizes of UATs, so 2 to 6 ounces. Comes with all the fastening hardware. And just a great design. Comes with zip ties, zip straps as some people call them. So those will be on the website. A bunch of those guys. And the cool thing we're going to have is the Sweewind GSU holders. So we've got 2 different designs in here. One of these, you can actually adjust the bolts on each side, and they will adjust at any angle. So I got one of those made, or some of those made. And then we've also got this model here, which will sit flat, or it's got a back plate which will allow it to sit at a fixed angle. So 2 different models for the Sweewind GSUs. So some cool 3D printed stuff. I don't have a 3D printer, that's why I get Joe to make my stuff. He does a great job, good quality work. And I know there's lots of people that have 3D printers, and it's, you know, it's one of those things that's pretty universal now, but I feel very strongly about supporting other people in the hobby, supporting local as well too if we can, and that's why I'm going to feature Joe's stuff on my website. So you guys will see this probably, hopefully it'll be up by the time this video airs for the PC6, but anyways, check it out down below, thelightersideofrc.com, I think /shop, but links down below. All right, guys, really not a whole lot of fun things going on the past couple days, just sanding and filling and sanding and filling and sanding and filling. But we're close on the fuselage. I don't think we'll need to do any more filling. I got the last pieces sanded last night or filled last night, and we should be pretty good. Maybe one more little touch up, but I was really focusing on a couple areas. So like the corners of the fuselage here, I wanted to be nice and sharp, so when the wings butt up into them, they meet up perfectly. Spent a whole bunch of time on the cowl area. I got that pretty much done. Had to sand down this side, the underside, and just for aesthetics, needed to fill this joint right here just because of the way everything was angled. It didn't really look overly pretty, so didn't take much filler, but needed to add a little bit of filler on this piece just to work on the joint there. But all those little things that take a lot of time. I think the fuselage definitely is the thing that's going to take the most time out of all this stuff. When we start on the wings and everything, what we'll do is, the reason we need to get the fuselage done first is when we butt the wings in, the top skin of the wings require a little bit of sanding where it meets the fuselage, because the sheeting is sitting up, you know, 0.5 millimeter higher than the fuselage. So anyways, all those things are important. That's why I wanted to get the fuselage done first, and we are very, very close. So I'm going to work on this tonight and just sanding away, and that's basically what I've been working on. All right, guys, well, I've actually spent a couple days, not literally a couple days like solid days, but evenings, working on this fuselage, getting it ready, and really, really close. So I just wanted to show you guys kind of the process here. So I've gone over this fuselage multiple times, and all I do on the last pass here is just go around with my pencil, mark out important areas that need some attention. And so this is going to be my last fill session on this fuselage, and then it will be ready. I've spent a crap load of time getting the area around the cowl to fit perfectly, so it's taken multiple fills and all that kind of stuff. But your prep is very important. The more you prep, the better you prep, the better your final product. All right, so as a final step, guys, what I will do is, or what I've done, is I've taken the fuselage outside, taken my compressor with my air chuck, and basically blown off the fuselage. What happens when you do that is it really gets rid of all the dust out of the little, you know, fine cracks and stuff. So you can see areas that I've gone back and patched, which weren't visible before because the sanding dust kind of gets stuck in there and it looks like it's a nice smooth surface. So that final blow off with the air gun really cleans everything up and gets rid of everything. So I have got a little bit of sanding left to do, and a little bit of final sanding in the area right here and this area that I filled right here on the cowl. And once that is done, the fuselage is finished. All right, tip time for you guys. So when you're doing your wings like this, you're going to have your covers for your flaps, lights, ailerons, that kind of stuff. Easiest way to deal with these things, don't try and sand them down now to match your wing. What you can do is cover them with fiberglass, and when you put them in, you're going to find that they're far too tall. Like right now, these ones are a little bit too tall. Part of that has to do with the glue and that kind of stuff. But anyways, what you can do is you can adjust the height afterwards, right? So get this covered in fiberglass, and then you can sand down the other side to get it to match the wing. So little tip for you on matching up your aileron and flap covers and surface covers. Really nice day outside. It's actually nice to be able to pull those pieces outside and be able to sand them outside so we don't get all the dust in the garage. All right, so the wings are almost done. Did my last fill everywhere. This leading edge was a bit of a pain, and the reason for that is the balsa from, I think the joint's about here, but this piece of balsa was extremely hard compared to all the other pieces. Like, it was kind of like in between basswood and balsa. It was weird leading edge material. So anyways, that wasn't overly even when I sanded it, and you could tell because when you put it on the airplane or the fuselage, you could see that it was shy from the leading edge by about 1/8 of an inch. So we had to fill that all the way across the leading edge. So that's done. And then of course we've done all the other bits and bites on the wing, and one final sanding, and that should be good to go. Here's the other wing. Again, same kind of thing. I just filled this, and we're waiting on this to cure and give it a sand, and then we will basically almost be ready. All right, guys, I tell you, I'm pretty much sick and tired of sanding, but the sanding and prep work for these surfaces is done. Now, when I say it's done, we do have a little bit of sanding left to do on the surfaces, but essentially we are done and ready for glassing. So definitely exciting to have this step done. I was really, I think, not expecting it to take this long, maybe, if that makes sense. There was a lot of work to do on the fuselage. Like I've told you previously, a lot of time spent getting this joint on the fuselage to be acceptable where I was happy with it. So I'm happy with it now. It's beautiful. It's very, very clean all the way around, and I think it's going to work out awesome. So guys, next big step is to start glassing this plane. That's going to be the next video. Is we're going to be basically doing all the glass work on this plane, which is going to be quite an in-depth video. I'll try and keep it a bit of a tutorial, but really we're just going to talk about how to do it. I'll show you guys some examples on some surfaces, and then that's pretty much it. I'll maybe do some time lapse and stuff on how it's all going, but it's I guess one of the things that I'll do is I'll try and weigh things before and after to see how much how much weight we're adding with the glassing process. So that is it, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in to the video, and thank you for the support and watching the videos on the build of the PC6 Turbo Porter. It's pretty cool to see how many people are tuning in and watching the videos on this plane build. Definitely, it's going to be a beauty, that's for sure. It's a really nice aircraft, and I think it's going together really well. So that's it, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't done so already. And don't forget to check out my website as well, too, thelightersideofrc.com. Check out the shop. We're always adding new stuff. I just added some 3D stuff, probably very close to when this video goes live. So some 3D printed stuff from my buddy Joe. Anyways, guys, we'll catch you in the next video.